What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another Bear Show on SportZone Chicago. Before we get started, make sure you like, share, and subscribe to SportZone Chicago on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Fair warning, I've been on one today. If this chat room gets fired up, it might go left very quick. Fair warning. I started off the day really, really hot with Sean and Maya in the morning, and just other things going on. So if this goes left, you'll know why, but fair warning. Anyway, it was a gut-wrenching type of a mid-morning, I would say. We got the news about Larry Ogunjobi. Actually, we got the news on Sean and Maya in the morning right before transition with Ken. And Ken, it was just like we're all sitting there. We're all just like, is it real? Do we believe this? Is he hurt? Like what's going on? Nobody had a clue on what was going on. Apparently, Larry Ogunjobi, now that everybody knows, failed the physical. He had an injured foot last season that kept him out of the division, the conference, and the Super Bowl for the Bengals season. I don't know what the physical read. I don't know what is. Yeah, red face Ivan is here. We'll see. We'll see, Vernon. It depends. I don't think. I'm not sure that it was something that could be, career ending or whatever. It just, the Bears didn't like it. They put an emphasis on not going out and getting wounded type of players and giving them a big contract. It was funny because as soon as I mentioned Pernell McPhee this morning, just seemed like everybody was like, oh yeah, everybody remembered Pernell McPhee, that contract that Ryan Pace gave to defensive end Pernell McPhee from the Ravens. Ended up being a really bad one. Pernell McPhee made a couple of appearances, nothing too shabby, nothing impressive. And, I think Ryan Poles was weary of that. He really was. He didn't seem like he was, upset. He was obviously disappointed. They all were, they were in high praises of Larry Ogunjobi. But it didn't take him long to get moving in another direction. And that's something that I really love about Ryan Poles. Ryan doesn't seem to be fazed by anything at this point. At this juncture, it doesn't seem like he's fazed by anything. Trading Khalil Mack, fine, get him, you're up out of here. Cutting Eddie Goldman, cool, we could get with that. Not re-signing Allen Robinson, cutting Tariq Cohen. Like, there's nothing that seems to be phasing this guy, Ryan Poles. And I like what he's doing. I really do. Terrence Scott, our number one concern was offensive line and receiver. Our number one concern now is offensive line and receiver. I don't know if it's really offensive line and receiver. You went ahead and got a couple of playmaking guys. Like, see, what do we want right now? What do you want right now, Terrence? Are you expecting a Super Bowl team? Are we expecting a playoff team, 11 wins? I don't think that's realistic. I think what he's doing is exactly what he told you. Build with the second tier. Build with guys that have quality to them, that want to be more than just football players and want to play for more than just a contract. Guys who have chips on their shoulders. A guy like Lucas Patrick, offensive guard / center, who I think is going to be playing more of center, like he alluded to in his press conference. He's a guy that comes in, instantly gives you an attitude up front. All he did in his press conference was talk about how he wanted to protect Justin Fields, talked about Justin Fields real highly, talked about how he wanted to keep him clean. I think you're already off to a good start there as far as getting tougher and more physical up front. Now, at wide receiver, it was Christian Kirk's fault. You want to? I'll give you the receiver, Terrence. Christian Kirk kind of screwed everything for everybody. You're not going to go ahead and pay a $21 million salary per year to one of these top end receivers. And then by the time that, you had Mike Williams re-signing, you had Chris Godwin going back, getting franchise tag. By the time, you kind of saw this week in free agency coming, there's not really much guys that you want to go ahead and give a big contract. So for me, I just feel like Byron Pringle, that's a guy that could be a big help. He runs real hard, fights for yards after the catch, real elusive. You have Equanimeous St. Brown, played for Notre Dame, can go up and get it. He can stretch the field. He could go up for a deep ball. The thing is that he's wasn't really utilized. And was that Aaron Rodgers? Aaron Rodgers being a prima donna or being a stickler, being particular, because you heard Lucas Patrick talking about something that stuck out with Aaron, something that Aaron does that sticks out to him the most was holding people accountable and accountability, right? So you got your center talking about accountability. You got your center talking about holding people accountable. You got, your head coach and your GM talking the same thing. So now you guys are on the same page. Everybody seems to be on the same page. Everybody seems to understand what is expected of them. I think I like Will Fuller too. If Will Fuller could hold on to the football, I would really like Will Fuller. I think that what I said before, and I trust me, I want offensive line, Terrence. It's not that I'm disagreeing with you, because I want them to bolster the offensive line. I also want a playmaker. Those 2 second-round picks, the first one at 39, I feel like is going to be a wideout. You had I'll get to it in a minute, but you had the Devonte Adams trade, which could implicate, kind of not dictate, but it could just kind of tell you which receiver is going to fall to the Bears if the Green Bay Packers go out and take one of those first-round picks and use it on a wide receiver. I feel like maybe that second first-round pick could be a pass rusher for them. I'm not sure, but if Green Bay goes ahead and takes a receiver there, it's going to be, now then the Bears are going to have to really decide, well, who's priority number one? Who's at the top of their board? Which receiver is, head and shoulders above everybody else? Mark him down. Make sure you have you recognize who is who. Like, who's your can't miss wide receiver? Who's your can't miss O lineman? Who's your can't miss D lineman? And go from there. I really feel like I feel like now that they went ahead and signed after the Larry Ogunjobi, debacle, the failed physical, they went ahead and signed a guy, Justin Jones, from the San Diego Chargers. Excuse me, apologize. The Los Angeles Chargers of Anaheim, SoCal. What I mean? The Los Angeles Chargers, and he's a guy that's very vocal. Justin Jones, a guy that's go check out the NFL's Mic'd Up Chargers against the Raiders, I believe it was this year. A lot of good stuff from him. He even mentioned, and we talked about Fletcher Cox being on the market earlier on Sean and Maya, before we knew what was going to happen and before we knew what the approach was going to be with Chicago and Ryan Poles pivoting, after the Larry Ogunjobi news. Justin Jones seems like a guy. He even said in the Mic'd Up, watched Fletcher Cox, was always watching his tape, doing things like him. And when you see him on the field, when you hear him vocally, the guy, he's a vocal leader. He keeps you up. He's backing up his offense when he's on the sidelines. He's motivating guys on the defensive side when he's on the football field. Justin Jones, I mentioned it. You get pushed aside, you get brushed aside, you get ignored. You want to prove something. As an athlete, as a competitor, you want to prove something and prove other people wrong. I think Justin Jones, if he could take that mentality and, use that to drive him, I think he could have some success here. If anything, he could be a catalyst as a leader in the locker room, because I feel like, and they've mentioned it before about him, he's a good guy. He's a good guy in the locker room. Just seems like he's got a bunch of energy, ready to get after it. We'll see what happens. It's disappointing to an extent with Larry Ogunjobi. He seemed like a perfect fit. Everybody was real happy, real high on him. I'm looking at it, two ways. The first one, we'll get the negative out of the way, the disappointment, right? Here we go again. Another Chicago Bears debacle. Can't figure it out. And this time you went ahead and announced it. It got announced during the legal tampering period. Everybody's getting excited. Everybody's up. You pretty much, it was a shocker to everybody. It was an uppercut to the fan base, because they were like, "Oh, I thought you were second tier Ryan Poles. I thought we were going to wait a week and then go about our business." It was surprising. It was refreshing. You got excited, and then boom, you're stuck here in disappointment. You're thinking it's just going to be, what is he doing? He traded Khalil Mack, didn't go get Eddie, didn't go get, or let Bilal walk. I'm not worried about that. I'm not worried about that. They made it a point, and they keep driving the point. The point has never changed. They want athletes. They want guys that fly to the football. They don't want fat bodies. And they want guys that want to buy. They want guys with that extra chip on their shoulder. This wasn't anything new, in my opinion. And the way that they've been going about free agency, I think to this point has been right on cue. You're going to need to build within the draft as well as free agency. They don't have a lot of draft picks this year. Sean mentioned comp picks coming back next season with the guys walking away. Hopefully we get a bunch of there next year. You know, with the building and with how they want to build this football team, sustained success, right? Extended periods of success. You want to go ahead and just be real with what you have on the table, right? You want to be truthful to not only yourself, but you want to be truthful to the guys in your organization. Hey, this is what it is. Like, you're going to have to fight. All the guys that they've signed so far, they've got on 1 year, 2 year deals. They also signed a couple other guys. I'll get into that in a second. You know, these are prove-it deals, all of them so far. Even Ogunjobi to an extent. You know, I guess with the Ogunjobi deal, I think you were just trying to get the best out of him, trying to get the best you can out of a guy who's a little bit older, but, you know, 3-year deal, probably going to fight to maybe get one more contract. Maybe you get the best out of him going into the later parts of his year or his career. But you're looking at it as everybody has to fight. Everybody has to fight on this football team, regardless if you're the quarterback, regardless if you're the start. And nothing was better and more refreshing than to hear new Bears linebacker Nick Morrow. Nick Morrow, coming from the Raiders, started his career as a safety with I think it was with Oakland. I think they were Oakland at the time. So don't jump on me for saying Oakland Raiders. I think he was drafted by the Oakland Raiders as a safety. Transitioned. He played all over the field as a linebacker. Played Will, played Sam, played Mike. He's played every position as a linebacker. And what he said was, and I think the question was, you expect to start? And he says, I don't expect anything. I expect to compete. I expect to come in here and compete and come in here and give my all to compete. Nick Morrow he won that with me. Like for me, that was like, all right, dude, I like you. Yes, it was a high ankle sprain that kept him out all last season. But I was like, dude, I like you. I like that motivation. I like you staying humble. I like you saying, hey, I gotta fight. There's only one way. I have to fight to earn my keep. And then he went on to explain what happened or that first year as a Raiders, I guess, hybrid safety linebacker. What did he do that first year? He said it after every practice, or I believe he went and studied a couple plays out of the playbook, because he was from a smaller school, didn't understand. He taught himself the playbook, did it twice in one season, and then continued to do that. He said he's all about work ethic, all about heart, all about competition and competing. And I like that. I like that about Ryan Poles. I was excited to see, like I said, the disappointment with Larry Ogunjobi. It should be very, very non-lasting. It shouldn't last very long. It should be in and out. He didn't even suit up for the Bears. He didn't play snap one. And for Ryan Poles to be like, hey, you know what? We can't do it. I can't take this risk. And I got to look out. I got to protect the Chicago Bears. What else? What more did we want? What more did we want from a GM? He obviously recognized his player. Couldn't get it done because of the physical. Wasn't going to make a mistake in signing the guy, even though he has some type of a ailment that they don't like, and made a decision on it, and then immediately went ahead and signed a replacement in Justin Jones. Yes, it was a gut wrench. Yes, it was a gut punch. Yes, it was not fun to talk about this morning. But I think, I think the more we pour into it, the more we overthink this, I think the more we're just going to drive ourselves up the wall, and you're not going to really allow Ryan Poles to really have that for yourself. You're not going to give Ryan Poles that opportunity. You'll just be kind of closed offish to them in the front office. And as of right now, I don't think he deserves it. Does the Bears front office and the brass before? Oh yes, no doubt. George said they still deserve the skepticism that comes with them being involved in Bears operations. But for Ryan Pace and Matt Eberflus, just allow it to be. In my eyes, I knew this team wasn't going to be a playoff team. I could see them overachieving, no doubt. But I don't think playoffs should be the goal. I think the goal should be building a bond, building an understanding amongst the locker room, finding the guys that fit, finding the guys that are captains, finding the leaders on this team, because there's going to be a new set of leaders. There's going to be a new set of leaders. There's going to be a new set of C's, and it's not going to be passed around to whoever gets signed that week because they're playing their former team. It's not going to be like that. It's going to be structured. It's going to be built off of a work ethic, what you put in, how you're performing on the football field. Like Ryan Poles said, for the offensive line, the best 5 will start, period. So I expect that to be the same at all positions. I expect everybody to be fighting. I expect, looking at the guys that they're signing, they're not bums. None of these guys are scrubs, but they need something. They need to prove themselves. They need to come out here and take that next step. And that's what they're banking on in year 1. I think year 2, once you see what this year, provides, you could go ahead and talk about it. But for right now, Larry Ogunjobi will not be with the team. Don't abandon Ryan Poles just yet. Just saying, man, don't start with the name calling and writing him off. I think he'll figure it out. And like I said before, we're looking at his signings later are the rest of the signings. Nick Morrow, linebacker, like I mentioned before. Then he went ahead and brought in Lucas Patrick, big nasty in the middle, center guard combo guy who he just seems like he seems like he's ready to go. Seems like he wants to be out there, wants to protect Justin Fields. Talked highly about Justin Fields. Lucas Patrick could be a guy that fans really generate to, right? It could be that big nasty in the middle that we've missed since Olin, right? Somebody who doesn't take shit, somebody who's kind of colorful in a way. Yeah, I feel like it was his first time in front of Chicago media. So, I mean, you're kind of, I guess you would be maybe a little nervous. You're coming to a new team. But for me, I feel like once that guy gets settled in, he's going to be one of those guys that brings energy, brings a little fun, talks a little shit, gets people motivated, gets guys going in the locker room, gets guys going out on the football field as well. Doesn't take shit. A lot of people talked highly about him in Green Bay. Fans talked highly about him in Green Bay. Aaron Rodgers talked highly about so this guy he's an unknown, but he's a good unknown. And this is a good thing for the Chicago Bears, finding a guy who wants to do that job, wants to keep the quarterback clean, and who's going to give up his body to do that. And I think a Lucas Patrick, a guy like that, could quickly become a leader, not only on the offensive line, but on this football team. Terrence, you had mentioned wide receivers, and we'll go to the actually, let me get to some of these. You said, who would they want to trade, Marshawn, or who are the Bears going to trade next? I don't think they trade anybody next. I mean, we'll see what happens when the draft comes about, but I don't think they go anywhere. I really don't. I don't think they move anywhere. I don't think they do anything. I think they stay pat. If they move anybody, I mean, who would you think it would be? The usual suspects, Eddie Jackson, Robert Quinn. I don't think Rowe's going anywhere, so I won't even put him in the group. But you have very, very little people. I mean, yeah, you could trade these players, but then, like Phil had mentioned a couple weeks ago, then you're going into a full rebuild. Now, then you're going into, hey, man, we're just going to have to go ahead and start. We're going to go ahead and draft young guys. We're going to see which one fits. We're going to see who could take that leap and take a step up to being that guy, or maybe you get lucky. I don't know if that's the route they want to go. I'm not sure if that's exactly the route they want to go. I know they're moving bodies and they're willing to let guys walk, But if you're not going to get a good return for some of these guys, it's kind of not worth trading. Now, a trade just to trade is I don't know. I feel like Robert Quinn could be useful, definitely on a defense. He's a leader, quiet leader. Did what he did, record breaker. Did what he did last season. I think Robert Quinn is safe. Eddie Jackson, what are you going to do? How are you going to replace him? You're going to replace him with a young guy? You're going to find somebody young in the draft? All the bigger safety, all the big time safeties are gone, but I know the Bears are a second tier team. I don't know if they find anybody that they really trust right now. I think they might go ahead and see what Eddie has, see if they could get the best out of Eddie. And if they can't do that, then they'll figure out another option with Eddie Jackson. But as far as trades, Marshawn, I don't think they're doing anymore. I could be wrong. I just don't feel like that's, as of right now, that's where they need to go as far as moving players or accumulating picks. Terrence Scott, Nick Foles must be grandfathered in at this point. Otherwise, please help me explain why they're still paying him. That I don't know. Maybe they're trying to find somebody that will just give them a 7th round pick or something like that. Maybe they're really pushing for that. I think Nick Foles, you don't have another quarterback on the roster as of right now. With Andy being gone, Andy's not a Bear. It's kind of hard to go ahead and give up Nick Foles, even though I know trust me, I don't want him on the roster. He's not my first choice as a backup. But if you have nobody else, I don't know if you get rid of Nick Foles right away, but I think Nick Foles might get cut sooner rather than later. If they can't find a backup that can complement Justin Fields in a way that the Ravens have, I forgot the young man's. The Ravens have Lamar Jackson, and they had Lamar's backup this season. I'm going to go ahead and it's not Tyrod Taylor. I know it's not. It's let's see, Ravens quarterbacks. Something similar to that. Tyler Huntley. Something similar to that, where you have the same skill set, not necessarily the same player, but you have the same skill set, and you can go. You're able to do similar things. You might not be able to make the big plays, but you're able to go do enough to get wins. And Huntley kept that team. He kept the Ravens in there as much as he could. I thought he did a fine job. Nick Foles isn't the complement to Justin Fields that Huntley is to Lamar Jackson. It's just not there. So I would expect something to be done if they don't bring a younger guy in. A younger, maybe more mobile guy. Maybe they find a guy that, undrafted free agent. Maybe they bring some guys in. Who knows what happens? But I don't think Nick Foles is going to be any type of a factor. I don't know if he'll be on the team. But if he is on the team, because they don't really have another quarterback, they don't want to eat that money, I would expect him to stay. I'm just going to come out and say I would expect if they don't move him by the draft, if they don't cut him by the draft, I don't know. Maybe it's June 1st. Maybe they save a little money by waiting post June 1st. I haven't checked out his contract. I'll have to get back to you. What was this? Bear Truth. We need to trade Foles to Indy. I would like to trade Foles to Indy. We'll see. Cam as a backup. I don't know. Is Cam still in Carolina? Did he sign a 1-year deal or is it a 2-year deal? Are they bringing him back? I think it was a 1-year deal. I don't know what Cam wants to do. I don't want to knock Cam. I don't think Cam is the Cam of old, and that's just because he's got his body beaten up, man. The guy's a warrior. He's just been beaten up. As big as he is, the way he played the game at his position, it's tough. Like I want to say Cam can do it, but does he want to play that backup role and just play second fiddle 1 year? Yeah, like I said, again, does he want to play that backup role? He could teach Justin. I would like for maybe learning the ins and outs as a mobile quarterback, as a more physical quarterback. The knowledge might be there, but again, with the way Ryan Poles is running his show, efficiency and speed, like efficiency, speed, availability. Guys that aren't guys that are guys that are young and that they could go ahead and teach moving forward. I know Nick Foles isn't a young guy, and I know Cam isn't a young guy, but if it was going to be anything, I would expect them to look for a younger, more comparable quarterback to back up Justin Fields. Yeah, and we are going to run the ball this year. That's for damn sure. I feel like there will be offensive linemen taken in the draft. I feel like Ryan Poles doesn't want to go ahead and spill all the beans and tell you his strategy, obviously. But I'm pretty sure it's playmaker one. If you find a playmaker that falls to you, Christian Watson. If a Treylon Burks is there, I don't know if that will happen. But there's guys out there, man, that, with how things are shaping up, might fall into that second round range, that 39 range, hopefully, for the Bears. Trading up, not sure if it's an option. Not sure if they want to do that. They need all the draft picks they can get. Emphasizing youth and emphasizing emphasizing youth and emphasizing that availability and wanting to get guys on better contracts, smarter contracts. I think that's going to be a necessity. Getting young guys on cheaper contracts that play above their contract, and then you could go ahead and, I mean, it's obviously a wishful thinking, but that's the approach they're going to take. They're going to, as of right now, they're not going to go ahead and spend too much. They're not going to go ahead and make a big splash. They're going to stay steady, compete this year, try to, get guys in position to compete at certain positions, get guys acclimated to new positions if they have to, and, really try to establish their identity as a football team, which, like Bear True said, will probably end up being running the football and using play action to the best of Justin's ability. According to his speed. I'm looking at the how they went ahead and they signed also. Actually, let me get to let me finish up the rest of the sign. I think I stopped at Lucas Patrick. We had Byron Pringle, a guy that for KC, I'd mentioned towards the end of the playoffs last year, or towards the end of the year and into the playoffs last year, Byron Pringle was finding the end zone with for Patrick Mahomes. And Byron Pringle throughout the year, I've seen some of the highlights, makes moves, can get yards after the catch, is very shifty in space. You can't really, when he's breaking tackles, he kind of reminds me of Darnell Mooney, fighting, bucking, going forward, fighting for any extra yards he can. The ability to catch the ball in space. I saw a couple passes where he was walloped, was able to hold on. Byron Pringle, a guy on a 1-year deal, a prove-it deal. Like I said, somebody that needs to have a breakout year and hopefully get some money next season with a new contract. It's the same thing. These guys are going to have to fight. I can't repeat it enough. Equanimeous St. Brown, another one, a guy who in Green Bay's kind of got lost in the mix, didn't really take that step. I think Valdez Scantling was, him and Valdez Scantling and Lazard were the younger receivers. You had Devonte, obviously. I think Equanimeous St. Brown was the guy that they were expecting to take that jump. He just never did. He just never did. You ended up seeing a lot more Devonte, a lot more Lazard, a lot more Valdez Scantling. Why that is, I'm not sure. But, this is a playmaker. You got him on the cheap. You're looking to get the best out of these guys. You're looking to see if these guys really want to work and have they been doing enough to take that next step as players in order for the Bears to say, hey man, maybe we should keep this guy around. Maybe this guy is good not only for the locker room but good for the team because of how they work, how they contribute, what they add to it. Yes, St. Brown was with Notre Dame. And he was really, really good. Could go up and get it, could stretch the field, a deep threat. He's got really long, lanky legs. He's not. When you get in the league, it's different, though. You know what I mean? Like you're looking at him as a college guy, all world. You get in the league, it's kind of different. I know placement and everything. I mentioned that before with quarterbacks. It's kind of like if you get a quarterback and you put him in a good situation. If he's a halfway decent quarterback and you put him in a great situation, well, you should expect him to succeed. With this is, a wide receiver, I feel like it was a good situation. You just probably didn't have that camaraderie with Aaron Rodgers, right? You have three other guys that you're competing with. One of you guys is going to end up being the odd man out, and I feel like Equanimeous St. Brown was that odd man out, and I give him a shot. Like I'd mentioned before, I've seen more of Byron Pringle than Equanimeous St. Brown in the short term. I mean, obviously he's had plays. Obviously he's been on the football field. Equanimeous is a guy if it's a very, very big boomer bust, because if he doesn't perform or if he underperforms, I'm looking at it like, oh, well, that's exactly what we're looking, that's exactly the guy we got from Green Bay. Like, the guy never took a step. It wasn't because he was buried underneath a good receiving core and a couple tight ends. It wasn't any of that. It was just because he wasn't able to, make the jump. Again, all these contracts, 1 year, I think Al-Quadin Muhammad had a 2 year for 10. All these contracts are very small, very limited, not trying to go ahead and blow the bank, but trying to go ahead and find quality, find those diamonds in the rough. Justin Jones, I'd mentioned, he got signed immediately almost after the Larry Ogunjobi news. And like I'd mentioned, Justin Jones seems like a leader. Go look at that mic'd up against the Eagles. Listen to him, hear him out. He just and I know it's just a mic'd up, and you're probably just look at the body language. Look at how he was. Like, the man was standing on the sidelines after the defensive series, rooting on his teammates, rooting on his offensive teammates. I know that for a lot of people that seems sappy, but that's characteristics of a leader. I mean, that's leadership there. You have guys that hold people accountable, hold themselves accountable, guys that motivate other guys that are lifting guys up, things like that. That's exactly how it should be. Watching a couple of the limited amount of tape that I've seen on Justin Jones, and then there was more college tape. He played next to Bradley Chubb, defensive end for the Broncos at NC State. I've seen a lot more college tape on him out there. The guy looks like he could do it, man. He's played everywhere on the line. It doesn't seem like he's a prima donna. Doesn't seem like he's going to have a problem doing the dirty work. Loves playing football. It really seems like the guy loves playing football. I was looking at some of the comments on that video, and that's some of the Chargers fans said exactly that. Like, man, does he look like he loves football? He looks like he's enjoying life out there. That's exactly the player that these guys wanted. That's exactly the player that they told you that they wanted. That's exactly the player that they're going after. Continue to see that trend. Guys that love football, guys that are willing to do the dirty work. Al-Quadin Muhammad, defensive end for the Colts. Could be, I think the title or the tag that was given to him was boomer bust, big boomer bust. And I think it's kind of weird because, like I mentioned before, all these guys are kind of boomer bust signings. But Al-Quadin Muhammad, he could be a helpful tandem. Like, he could be a quality tandem with a guy like Trevis Gibson. Hopefully, I feel like Trevis. I want to say Trevis is going to take a step, although we have to see. We have to see what happens. Like, everybody, we have our favorites. We have some, guys that we look to the year before and say, oh, that guy's going to do it. That guy's he's going to take the jump. And then all of a sudden it's like, no, he really didn't. He really wasn't ready, or he really wasn't the player that we expected. I expect him to compete. He's a guy that's familiar with the defense, familiar with Eberflus, familiar with Allen Williams, and if anything, he's a guy that's going to set possibly set the tone, right? Not so much he's going to be the leader, or he's going to be the figurehead, but he knows what to expect from this group, from this head coach, from this defensive coordinator, because the familiarity with the Colts. He's worked with them before. He's played for these guys. I feel like that is going to be more the like all these guys. It seems, it seems like they're looking for guys that they know or that they played with, are familiar with, that are going to give their all and that understand what these two guys want in Eberflus and in Ryan Poles. We're going to go ahead and go to another guy that got signed right before I started this. Actually, it was maybe like an hour before I started this. Kerry Blessingame, fullback, played for the Vikings, I believe, and he was with the Titans most recently. Informed the Titans he will not be coming back. He signs a 1-year deal with the Chicago Bears. So the Bears have a fullback, Kerry Blessingame. He's not bad. He's not your typical big bulky fullback. He looks like that. I keep mentioning that Kyle Juszczyk type of a fullback mold. He looks like that. He's got some speed. He's got some mobility as a fullback. He looks like that kind of dude that could catch passes for you. Can, when you need to call on him for a yard or two or whatever, he could do that as well. I think a Kerry Blessingame, and thank God we got a fullback, because that's the biggest implicator. Bear Truth mentioned it. We're going to run the ball. It's the biggest indicator that we're going to do such. In my opinion, if they didn't go out and get a fullback this offseason, however you got him, I don't know what to think. I wouldn't know how they were going to run this offense, because you need that guy. Sometimes you need that hammer to go ahead and bust up a hole and clear a hole for you, or you need that guy. You need that guy in pass protection. Like a Kerry Blessingame is not your typical fullback, like I mentioned before. He's more athletic, the H-back type. Though that's kind of the guys that they're going after now at the fullback position. Guys that could do multiple things in the running game and in the passing game. And I think that you're going to get some of that with Kerry Blessingame. I really am looking forward to what the Bears have to, are going to do with this roster. I don't know if they're done. That's the thing. I don't know if they're done. They're signing so many guys to cheap deals. Let's see. Actually, where are they at right now? Let's see what the Bears cap room is. I don't know if they updated it. Let's see. I'm not sure if they updated it or not. I can't seem to find it. All right. Well, we're not going to waste time on that. They still have room to add. I'm sure. Obviously, they're going to add in free agency. I think that with these next coming weeks, if you don't see, a couple guys added, maybe you see a cornerback, maybe you see a safety added. Expect them to start to give you ideas about what they're going to do in the draft. Expect them to start telling you a little bit more. I know they mentioned wide receiver, but I think they're going to be a little bit more blunt as to exactly what they want to do in this draft. I don't think Ryan Poles is a guy who is very secretive. I mean, he's been very open. He really has been. He hasn't really, kept anything from us. He's told us exactly what they wanted to do for the most part. I know everybody was shocked at the then Larry Ogunjobi signing when it happened. But I mean, for majority of what Ryan Poles has been preaching, it's been the same thing. It's been consistent. Bear Truth, I know there are rumors on us interested in left tackle Armstead from the Saints. Okay, I mean, all right. You want to go get an Armstead? How are you going to fill in other positions? Is he going to demand, like, how much is he going to demand on the open on the market right now? Are you going to be able to fill other holes? Or are you going to be able? Are you just going to go ahead and put all your money in him? You know what I'm saying? Like are you done filling in all the holes for the Chicago Bears to where the left tackle is the only thing that we need? I'm not sure that that's the case. And to be honest with you, I think that they're looking more to build the offense through the draft than they are on the defensive side. I think they're going to go definitely young playmaker, definitely younger offensive lineman, and go that route. I don't know if he wants to invest that amount of money into a left tackle at this juncture, because I don't know where else they have. Like, who's going to play safety for him next to Eddie Jackson? Who's the other cornerback? You know, there's other positions of need. You need more wide receivers. You need more playmakers. There's other positions of need that I think that they need to take a look at. But if there's a connection there, I mean, who am I to say no? Like, who am I to say, oh, you can't, like, you just can't do it? I'm just looking at it as a more efficient. How are you going to use this money efficiently, like you alluded to before? What am I against bringing in Armstead? Not really. No, not at all. No. But how are you going to use this money? Is it blowing? Are you blowing your load right now? And you're going to have to go ahead and try to piece something together later on? Are you going to have to go ahead and find undrafted guys? You're going to have to go bring other guys in that you hope and pray will work out for you? I'm not sure. I'm not sure if that's what they want to do. I think that they want to get this roster solidified before they make these big splash free agent signings. And that's just, I mean, quite honestly, that's just the God honest truth. Like, the way that they've gone about it, I'm looking at big free agent signings next season when they have a lot of money. You know, look at the left tackles, or look at who's out there for next year. Yeah, Jenkins, I like Jenkins, but I personally like it if they go ahead and draft two more guys, maybe a tackle guard combo guy, and maybe a guard center type of combo guy, guys that can play multiple positions on the offensive line, but can fill in the job that you want them to fill in, tackle or guard. You know, like I said, get a guy that can play multiple spots, you know, in the draft. I think that'll be better, or not better. I think that'll be more in line with what their idea of how this team is going to be built. Younger on the offensive line, depth with youthful depth, you know, competition. I think that fits more in line, because then you'll have these younger guys who, you know, and like I said, Lucas Patrick's on a 2-year deal. You know what I mean? 2-year deal for him. Guys are coming here to compete. If they all had that Nick Morrow mentality where, you know, I'm not expecting anything, I'm here to compete. If they all have that, then, you know, this is going to be a very, very, very blessed next few years for the Chicago Bears. They need to do that, though. They need to create that. And I think you could slot Larry Borom in there. You could slot Terrence Armstead in there if you want. The key is creating depth and creating competition, and that's only done with talent and with bodies, with draft picks. Youthful offense and a veteran-wise defense for at least the first couple of years. That's how I see it. Building up the offense is going to take a little bit more of time. You're going to have to find guys, you know, find a guy. I know DK Metcalf's available next season. We'll see what happens there. We'll see what happens before next season, because he could possibly be on the move. Ryan Bates, they were in conversation with Ryan Bates. Bare truth, yes. I think he visited with the Vikings today, but he'll be talking with the Bears as well. That could be awesome. That would be an awesome, you know, it would be awesome to put him right next to Patrick. Jesus, put him right next to Lucas Patrick. You know, opposite of Cody Whitehair. I could see that. I could see Larry Borom and Jenkins being those tackles. But like I had mentioned before, I could also see you getting, you know, a tackle guard combo type of guy. Maybe two of them. Maybe you get a guard center and you get a tackle guard. You know, guys that could play multiple positions on the offensive line in the draft, and say, hey, guess what? Yeah, Tevin. Yeah, Larry. You guys started. Or, you know, you're probably going to be the starters. Or you're, because there's nobody else, you're the starter. But you're coming here to compete. Like, this guy's coming here to compete. If he beat your ass, you know, in competition at left tackle, then sorry, bud. Like, the best 5 will start. That was the emphasis that Ryan Poles put on about competition and what he's going to do with this roster. The best 5 will start. So Create that competition, man. It should only make Larry Borum and Tevin Jenkins better if they're worth their fucking draft pick. If they're worth their stock, it will only make them better because they'll have to fight to keep their job. And that's like, to me, in a game of football, what else could you ask for? What else could you ask for than a guy fighting? I mean, everything else, like, if the guy's so super talented, playmaker, could do everything, awesome. But there's just some times where you just need guys that just fight. There's times where the most talented guy, he's not fighting. You see it all the time. We've seen it all the time. We see it all the time during the season. Sometimes these talented dudes, they get frustrated, not fighting. Not fighting. That's not what they want. That's not what they want. That's not what they're looking for. Talented Larry Borum, talented Tevin Jenkins, put more talent behind them and make sure that they stay at the top. Like, that's it. Make sure that they keep fighting because somebody's always trying to come take your job, man. That's what it is. Someone's always trying to come take your job. If they go ahead and bring in a Ryan Bates, awesome. 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 But best believe they should be adding depth on the offensive line in the draft as well. You know, thinking about how, you know, I'd mentioned Devonte Adams before. Devonte had gotten traded to the Raiders. 22 and a second round at 53 is what's going back to the Green Bay Packers. He signed a $141.25 million deal over 5 years. And it's, some people say it was Aaron Rodgers. According to Devonte Adams wanted to play with Derek Carr for a long time. They were boys at Fresno State. I mean, it's something that I guess it was more, and they could be just covering, you know what I mean? It could just be all cover. But I wouldn't take it away that Devonte kind of wanted to go play with Derek Carr, his boy. You know, they're in Vegas. You get out of Green Bay. You don't freeze your ass off in the winter. And, you know, maybe you get out of the NFC Championship game or the championship game, you know, now that you don't have to face the 49ers or the Bucks, or, you know what I'm saying? But even then, you still have to go through that gauntlet. That's the AFC West. So let me not jump to conclusions. But it could only benefit the Raiders. And for Devonte Adams, you're the you're the highest paid wide receiver in the league. It's what you wanted. I think it's what you deserved, you know, for your performance. Good riddance. Like, not my problem anymore. Not my problem anymore. But that 22nd and that 53, it might be a problem. It might cause me to lose it a little bit if they go ahead and jump us for somebody that we wanted. The biggest news, though, your boy Deshawn Watson. Deshawn Watson pulls his no trade clause. Yeah, actually, 1 second, because something is bang. Sorry, I had something. The window was open and it was just slamming back and forth, so I didn't want that to end up breaking. But anyway, Deshaun Watson, unbelievable. $230 million guaranteed, 5-year contract, 3 first-round draft picks going to Cleveland. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. I couldn't, as I catch my breath after running over there, I didn't think he was going to leave the South. I thought he was going to Atlanta. I thought he was going to New Orleans. Hell, I thought the Panthers were going to have more of a shot than any of those 3. But it's Cleveland. Browns get the quarterback that they so desperately needed. AFC going to wear each other out at Super Bowl time. I would hope so. I would think so. Guys fighting that whole division. Who's going to be in the AFC West? Who's going to be the worst? The Broncos? Does this move put the Browns over the top? I trust Deshaun more than I trust Baker Mayfield. I know that much. But now you have an Amari Cooper, Nick Chubb. You pair him with a Kareem Hunt as well. You got an Njoku. You got Deshaun Watson. Cleveland Browns are going to look very, very, very different and very, very, very deadly next season. It's almost like, it's almost as, and to be honest, there might be a suspension coming. There still might be a suspension because there's still civil suits out against Deshaun Watson. Criminal charges were dropped. He still might get suspended, but he's with the Cleveland Browns now. And Cleveland is, looking at how they fell off last year, because I felt like last year they were making a push, and then all of a sudden the defense was really good. Baker was not really good. Injuries started to mount. Baker, they had also mentioned that and it was a shot at Baker, and I believe, and I could understand why they wanted an adult at quarterback. I think it was what the verbiage was. An adult at quarterback, so somebody that's not making fucking more commercials than they are throwing touchdown passes. He made more commercials in that stadium than he's gotten wins in that stadium. He probably also hasn't taken responsibility for poor play. And that's the only way I could see an organization coming out and saying that so bluntly. We need an adult at quarterback. It's because you're not doing the job, bro. You're not doing the job. So they're looking, they went ahead and they looked forward. Deshaun denied them. Now that thank God I've caught my breath. Deshaun has denied them before. And then all of a sudden, just change of heart. Decides to go to Cleveland, pulls his no trade clause for the Browns. And then here we are today, $230 million guaranteed later. Deshaun Watson is a part of the dog pound. Houston will get 3 first-round draft picks, a 3rd, and a 5th. Unbelievable. I'm like, it was a out of left field move. Out of left field move. To be honest, I thought he was going to be suspended for the year. Then you had that news about the drop criminal charges. All these rumors. Look at all these rumors. Panthers, Falcons, Saints, and it ended up being the Browns. It ended up being the Browns in a shocker. I think Deshaun, whatever the reasoning was that he pulled him off the table before, I'm unsure. But if you look at the Browns team, the Browns team, some could say that they're a quarterback away. Their defense is getting better. They have a great running game. They added a number 1 wide receiver in Amari Cooper. Some would say the Browns are ready to win. And there's a lot of teams in the AFC that seem to be ready to win. A lot of teams in the AFC that have made moves to put them in position to strike for an AFC title and possibly a Super Bowl berth. It's you have to add, you have to be active, and I think this is the biggest. Like, I don't know if I'm not sure if Cleveland even realizes what just happened right now. First of all, I bet you the bars in Cleveland are going nuts. We've been probably going nuts all day. The massage parlors are going nuts. Now I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Kind of. But for the Browns, you get a quarterback. Who was the last quarterback? Bernie Kosar? Was that the last good quarterback? Tim Couch wasn't bad. Tim Couch wasn't horrible. Tim Couch did get to the playoffs once. it was that Browns team. I guess Tim Couch. I mean, and I'm not sure. Like, who was the last? Who was the last good? And I didn't say great. Who was the last good Cleveland Browns quarterback? Bernie? Like I said, Bernie Kosar? Can't think of it. Can't think of who. Brady Quinn? No. Jeff Garcia? No. Jason Campbell? Nah. Who else? Who else? Gradowski? Even though I like Gradowski, he was pretty. He had that Jeff Garcia in him, a younger Jeff Garcia in him. But I mean, he's just a journeyman quarterback. But yeah, I can't think of the last great Browns quarterback. So Deshaun Watson instantly becomes better than maybe the last 40 years of quarterbacking for the Cleveland Browns. And I'm talking about the Browns when they, before they went to Baltimore. And I'm talking about the new Browns, the new Cleveland Browns that emerged in the early 2000s. Cleveland Browns are gonna make some noise this year in the NFC Central, in the NFC North, excuse me. Pittsburgh, you got to think, is on a down. You got Mitch coming in. Good for, I mean, not knocking Mitch, not going to knock Mitch, but he's not the best quarterback in the division by far. So you have an opportunity here for Deshaun Watson. If you don't serve a huge suspension, you have an opportunity to go ahead and play ball again and possibly help bring a title to Cleveland, dare I say it. Just thinking about why would Cleveland not be the favorite in that division? The Bengals, that's right. The Bengals did go to the Super Bowl. Duh. The Bengals, I mean, I would say as of right now, with Deshaun Watson, and even with Lamar in the division, I think it could be the Browns. I think it might be the Bengals and the Browns fighting. And I'm not saying the Ravens are going to fall off or not be, in contention. I just don't see them getting over the top. I think Deshaun Watson, with his athleticism, his ability to scramble, his ability to get outside the pocket, make plays with his legs and his arm, I think that puts him over the top. You've seen a lack of playmaking ability as far as receivers go on that Ravens team. The Ravens just who's going to play receiver for the Baltimore Ravens? Who's playing receiver? Hollywood Brown and who else? Who else? It's very frustrating. I can only imagine for a guy like Lamar Jackson. You have talent, you have the ability to extend plays, but then when you look down the field, it's like you got maybe one dude, maybe one guy in Hollywood Brown, maybe. So playmakers are a huge part of it. Cleveland has them. Baltimore really doesn't. I mean, you get Dobbs back, but how healthy will Dobbs be? Or is it Dobbins? Dobbins. How healthy will he be coming after, back after a knee injury? Will they cater to him? Will they, allow him to run, or will they do what the Giants were doing with Saquon Barkley, keeping him on a pitch count, not letting him run loose? I'm not sure. But as of right now, it's Cincinnati and Cleveland to me, then Baltimore, and then, of course, Pittsburgh, even though Pittsburgh has that really good defense. Mitch don't move the meter, right? Mitch don't move the meter when it comes to Joe Burrow, and when it comes to Deshaun, when it comes to Lamar. Mitch don't move the meter. I think it'll be a dogfight, but I don't think the Steelers are going to do anything big come next year. Guys, I'm going to get out of here. Thank you for joining me. It's been a wild day. Like I said, you're uneasy about it. You were, obviously you were joyful as fans to go ahead and get a guy with the talent such as Larry Ogunjobi. Obviously today is hard, but you got to move forward as fans. I mentioned it before, holding on to things that never were put you in bad positions. And Larry Ogunjobi didn't even suit up for the Bears. Wasn't even on the roster officially. It is what it is. Let's move on, and let's hope that Ryan Poles and Matt Eberflus have the plan to get our Bears back to prominence, to get our Bears back to the playoffs and competing. Give us a team that we could be proud of again. That's where I want this team to be. Give us a team that we could be proud of again, win, lose, or draw. I haven't felt that way in a long time since, with this team, especially the last few years. It would be if the Bears fought, you were happy, and if they lost a heartbreaker, it's you're still on the Bears. But in recent years, it hasn't been that. You haven't been proud to watch some of these Bears games. You haven't been proud to call yourself a Bears fan as much. And I love being a Bears fan. Bears, when the Bears are on fire, even if they're competing, when they're competing, it's a blast to watch Bears football, man. It's a blast. You know it, and I know it. We'll see what happens. Guys, I'm Ivan Vargas. Until next time, peace.